no stopping me. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me.
I'm hiding of you, so lonely. I'm hiding of you, so lonely.
Touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep. Till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep. Till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep. Till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep. Till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping.
Country's president speaking to the press just moments ago. Jackie Pascal is in the newsroom with much more, breaking down his message. Jackie.
So far, we are listening in on his message right now, but Cuba's president basically confirmed that he is in talks with the U.S. He says that they are, quote, using dialogue to find solutions to our differences, to bilateral problems. And he calls it a sensible process that is entered into with, quote, responsibility and seriousness. Diaz-Canal saying that there are international actors involved in these conversations. This is a look at what this address looks like. Obviously, also tension with the U.S. after the ongoing fuel blockade from the U.S., causing an economic and energy crisis there in Cuba. I also do want to note the overnight announcement we got from the Cuban government that it will be releasing 51 prisoners in the coming days after a negotiation with the Vatican. So far, Cuba's president has not commented on that specifically and those being released. We are still working to learn more details about this. Of course, we are listening in, though, and he is still speaking to state media right now and taking questions and answers, specifically talking about the energy crisis right now. So stay tuned here for more updates coming.
All right, folks, welcome to Rise of Middle America podcast. I'm AK, your favorite guy. Tonight is Cuba Next on the radar for the Trump administration. All right. Is Cuba trying to make amends as well to have a relationship with the U.S.? And then a massive deal in the movie world as Skydance acquires Warner Brothers in a record $111 billion deal. What does that mean for the music industry, for shows, for online content, right? So let's find out tonight as Rise of Middle America starts now.
I'm hiding all you, so lonely. I'm hiding all you, so lonely.
Oh, I screwed that up. Hold on. I can't do it. I don't know why. I can't do it. Scrap jaw. There we go. I got it. Man, I sounded like an idiot there for a second.
I don't know what just happened. We'll be white black. Hold on. We'll be white black.
White black.
Technical difficulties.
Complete technical difficulties with my mouth. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Hey, we had a week off, and I told you guys at the beginning. I said we're going to be taking some days off throughout the year just to kind of like decompress and whatnot, because we ran this show for about a year and a half straight with like no break.
And then we had the holiday, and then coming out of the holiday, both our jobs just like there was nothing there to like ease up on any of it. And so we were just like,
I mean, it's great for us, you know, outside of this, but like it was, you know, our time management became a little bit of a problem. You know? So we're doing the best that we can to get with you guys, and but I'm glad that we're back. And it's not all going to be politics this time, you know, because we had the Skydance or Paramount Pictures that made that acquisition, which is going to be a really interesting story because there's a lot of new details that are coming out right now, and I think you guys are going to have. This is probably going to be the first time that you guys have been hearing about this. So, but before we get started, of course, go to riseofmiddleamerica.com. Check out our lineup of podcasts from history to the news, pop culture, true crime. We have a show for all your needs. We also got a Discord where all of the magic of Rise of Middle America happens. You want to be a podcast host, producer, researcher, or writer? It's the only place where you can be a part of the fastest growing podcast community on Rumble and X and YouTube. Top of the page are our links. Bottom of the page, we've got our merch shop. You can get the latest in Roma fashion. So like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification button so you don't miss a moment of the action. Without further ado, go ahead and say it, Scrap.
let's rant.
All right. This is from Laura Loomer. I think she broke the story here. So let me blow this up so you guys can see it. Paramount Skydance acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery set to bring more balanced news coverage to Americans, challenging longstanding left-wing media dominance in mainstream media. And transformative move of the American media, Paramount Skydance has positioned itself to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery WBD after Netflix withdrew from the bidding process. The roughly $111 billion all-cash deal, which I believe is a record, offering $31 per share for WBD, places that vast media empire, including CNN, HBO, Warner Brothers, and more, under the leadership of Paramount CEO David Ellison, son of Oracle founder and prominent Trump supporter Larry Ellison. All right, so this consolidation is a turning point away from what conservatives have long criticized as a pervasive left-wing propaganda in mainstream news, with control over both CBS News and now CNN. And the new ownership structure could significantly advance editorial balance and viewpoint diversity across major networks. Under Ellison's direction at Paramount, CBS had already implemented meaningful reforms. Barry Weiss, appointed editor-in-chief of CBS in late 2025 as founder of the Free Press, Weiss now oversees editorial standards with the mandate to prioritize factual reporting over partisan narratives. Paramount also settled a high-profile lawsuit with President Trump in 2025 for $16 million, stemming from allegations of deceptive editing in a 60-minute interview with Kamala Harris. We all saw that. And the resolution has been hailed by many as a victory for journalistic accountability. Additionally, CBS chose not to renew The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Good riddance. Beyond May 2026, after the host publicly criticized the Trump settlement. The decision removes a one-sided political commentary and shows and paves the way for programming that resonates with a wider ideological spectrum, which it should, right? Because this is the accountability seems to be non-existent, and it's been non-existent for the last 15 years. We're not just talking about left-wing propaganda either. It's been happening all over the place. And when you think about some of these influencers that are online that have a lot of sway in how people react and how people think, right? There needs to be some kind of accountability somewhere.
I'm tired. I'm tired of the Trump or bust people. Like we've been supporters of Trump here, but we've never been Trump or bust.
Absolutely not.
There's a difference between, and I'm not with we've never been with the Never Trumpers either. I mean, it's kind of easier to not be with the Never Trumpers, but at the same time, like, in the people that are toting this is what I hate about political catchphrases and movement labels is you have MAGA out here, which I enjoyed MAGA for the memes. And then the America First people started doing their thing, and that a lot of that gets attributed to Nick Fuentes early on with his AF pack, and he moved on that term really quick. As soon as that became kind of a cultural zeitgeist of terminology about American, focusing on the health of our country, that label got ate up by a group of people that I don't even like to associate with. I agree with pieces and parts of those different groups, and even with some of the libertarians. And when we have been here on this show and recognized a lot of the causes that the liberals, the left, and Democrats have been on early, where there was a nugget of validity, but we've also criticized every single one of them across the board, like from one end to the other. There's not one person who isn't victim to our rants in this venue.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You name it, like Democrat, Republican, male, female, trans, like it doesn't matter. There is nobody that is safe from us.
This is not a safe place at all. We just happen, and if it seems to be like we're heavy on one or the other, it's pretty much just because that's the that must be what the news is talking about today, and who's being the retard at the moment. Right.
No, exactly. And the left does the same thing when it comes to the Hitler of the Month Club. It's like, what can you who can we find that we can destroy their lives with? And on the other side, they decided that, oh, okay, well, you had your cancel culture moment, and now we're going to have ours. And then we criticized the right on that as well, because that's not how you handle business, right? And and at some point, somebody's got to put their big boy pants on and be the adult in the room.
Yeah.
And that's definitely not us. But it is a but we try to do our best to balance out the news. But I will say that there was a long time where like right-wing media did not get a say at all. So I think if you're wondering why we talk a lot about the right wing side of things is because it's not just because of that, but it's also because a lot of people want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah. And now they're getting louder and louder, and it's starting to split off. And the conversation that should be had around, I'll put it this way, anytime there's a controversy or something where there's a subject matter where you're being forced to accept one side or the other, it's probably the right conversation to be having, and there's probably some truth in there, and we need to have that conversation, but somebody's always dragging it farther into the ditch on one side or the other to get people to just completely give up. Like Alex Jones. I don't know if you guys saw his interview with Jimmy Dore this week. I hadn't watched Alex Jones in a while, and I knew he had been going through some stuff. And we all saw what happened on Timcast, which is sad to see Alex go back down off the wagon. And we want him back on the wagon. We want him to be healthy, but he's literally losing everything because he was not only the canary in the coal mine, but he is also the martyr of martyrs when it comes to speech on platforms right now, because he was knocked off early, and then midway they figured out they couldn't keep him down, and then the Sandy Hook thing just went way too far, and they've drugged that out, and he's fought that tooth and nail, and it looks like he's ultimately going to lose that. And guess what? Trump has been in office twice now, and ain't nobody done anything to help Alex Jones from the Trump administration.
Yes. And everybody say hi to my mom. I'm going to beat you up.
Hi,
Actually,
Mom.
no, I won't beat you up. She will beat you up. I promise you that.
Oh, yeah, don't mess with Mama.
Don't mess with Mama Bear. She got guns too.
But back to the Paramount thing about this, and accountability. Guess who's on Paramount? What shows are on Paramount?
What's that?
Beavis and Butthead.
Ooh,
Mike Judge.
Ooh, my goodness.
You know what I'm saying?
Could you imagine a remake?
Here. I haven't had a chance to watch the new Beavis and Butthead. I need to go to my streaming service of choice to find that and watch it. But I have watched the new King of the Hill, and it was really good. And it made fun of not cancel culture, but woke stuff in a way that was great. And it still kept that. They still kept that that King of the Hill-ness to it.
Yeah, it did.
I loved it. And Billy Strings doing the theme was just great.
It's just a masterpiece.
So I hope they keep moving on. I hope Mike Judge keeps making some episodes of King of the Hill.
Gotcha.
But that's a Hulu thing. But Mike Judge also does Beavis and Butthead, which is on Paramount.
Yeah. So somehow they got this all set up and ready to go. It's not like they used AI or anything. Wiki. Yes, I'm calling you out. Paramount Skydance initiated an acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery in early 2026 after they began evaluating strategic alternatives to a previously planned corporate split. Multiple bids were submitted, leading to a bidding war between Paramount, Skydance, Netflix, and Comcast in November 2025. On December 4th, 2025, Warner Brothers entered into a merger agreement with Netflix, which would have transferred its studios and streaming assets to the company while spinning off its linear networks business. On the 8th, however, Paramount Skydance launched a rival all-cash tender offer for WBD and continued to revise the proposal on the following months. Now, this is very similar to how the housing market works, right? You get somebody that comes in that has a lot of, not necessarily capital, but they come in with a bank offer that is pretty substantial, and they have a lot of wiggle room, and then somebody else comes in and pulls the cash by zipping down their pants and goes, ha, beat that.
Right.
And that's basically what happened, and because nobody really wants to do that. Call, you are the man, gifting 5 Rise of Middle America memberships.
He must be smoking it again. This man, you're so deranged. Why would you do this to us? Why would you do this? Why would you do this to us?
It's a happy payday.
We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Cole. Yeah, Cole's been around with us since the beginning.
He's a good guy.
He's,
I like
he's
him.
a really good guy. We've hung out with him a couple of times. He hung out with us with a couple of Timcast events, and there's plenty more coming this year. So just keep that in mind because I'll be down for each and every one of them. All right. So basically that's what happened, and at that point, there's not really much that you can do. You just kind of have to, put your tail between your legs and say, "Ha, you got me this time, Gadget." But anyways, Warner Brothers and Discovery, they were in a lot of trouble, right? Because since the merger in 2022, they lost over 60% of their stock value by 2025. And I mean, a lot of that has to do with just bad management in the type of movies and things that they were bringing out.
It wasn't just the movies. Like,
Oh,
how
yeah.
many horrible Batman games did they release? Arkham City was probably one of the most epically bad releases ever. It was
Oh, yeah.
absolutely horrible. The way it's one thing when a new like when another Crisis game came out, because it was like they were bleeding edge and you had to have the most monster PC to run.
I remember that.
Basically a $60 tech demo, right?
Mhm.
But when you release a Batman game where you've already had 2 installments, you should have the formula down by now.
Yeah, of course. But going real quick, going back to that, I remember when the first what was it? Crisis
Like
or
early 2000s was what Crisis came out, I think, and then there were 3 of them that came eventually were released.
yeah. I remember I had a friend of mine, it was in 2008 or 2009, and he had to buy an $1,800 computer in 2009 just to run it on like normal, not even on the highest end. The computer was able to do it, but when you put it on the highest setting for all the graphics, I mean, that computer was screaming bloody murder. We had to take the cover off just so that it didn't overheat itself and catch on fire.
That was before AMD come out with their nice GPUs and CPUs. They were still struggling. You were still like, well, I guess it's Intel and Nvidia, but yeah, Warner Brothers wasn't doing great during that time frame.
Exactly.
Or this recent time frame.
Well, it wasn't even them. Like, everybody was putting out shit. Everybody. And I think that was really the reason why people went crazy during COVID. Because there was just nothing good to watch. So they went out and protested in the streets. No, I'm just kidding. But David Ellison, he's the CEO of Paramount. You guys know the son of the what was it, Larry Ellison?
Larry Ellison owns Oracle Soft, which is a software company that is arguably one of the worst.
Yeah, pretty much. They wanted to scale and compete against like Amazon, Disney, Netflix, all that stuff.
Oh, they've been in pissing matches with Google and IBM and all these other over like software and patent stuff and trying to shut down open source things and projects like that. I'm a Linux guy. I got a new Linux box sitting behind me. It's all nice and shiny.
Hey.
But like, yeah, this is the progeny of somebody who's running a company that is slimy as well. Okay. And now they've sucked up Warner Brothers at dirt cheap price.
Yep.
And part of me thinks that a lot of these media companies were intentionally ran into the ground in order to soak them up. A lot of companies in general were run into the ground by woke stuff. And how many of it would be interesting to see how many companies since COVID and well, let's go back before COVID. Let's go back to 2012. How many companies since 2012? Because that's about when cancel culture kicked into high gear with Gamergate.
Yep.
Night in the Woods producer, creator, offs himself because his trash girlfriend comes out and calls him a piece of trash and accuses him of a bunch of things. His entire life falls apart. The games industry is then in shambles because, as far as journalism, because there's all this quid pro quo kind of stuff, and like it was nepotism. There's all of the things, and the wokeism came in. Anita Sarkeesian. Let's just go. This is the era when Candace Owens is a part of the left. Okay, that's how far back. How many companies since then? How many companies since Candace Owens was still bozoing around with the leftists and starting the whole cancel culture? Let's dox everybody. How many companies, because of that cancer, have tanked and been bought up by somebody else?
Absolutely. We'll call this the Candace Owens effect.
I mean, how many bridges has she burned?
Oh my God.
Plenty.
Yeah, there are plenty. I think she only has one bridge left. We all know what that one.
And it's the one she's trying to sell so hard.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but let's talk about who benefits from this, right? Because Paramount is going to acquire 100% of Warner Brothers in that epic $111 million, no, not billion, $billion deal.
Wow.
And $6 billion in synergies, combining streaming technology, consolidating like real estate and streamline operations. Because Warner Brothers has their own like massive, their studio is bigger than Hollywood's, right? So
the vaults of all of these old school films that Warner Brothers holds on to.
Yeah, but what nobody's talking about is the shareholders. Right?
Okay.
Because it's supposed to be coming out at about $31 a share. So right now let me see if I can figure out what's WBD. There we go. Share this tab here. They're sitting at 27.14. You can see it started to go down 5 days ago. Is that a short that I see there?
They probably shorted it for sure. I guarantee you they shorted it.
Yeah, because I think there were some people that knew that this was going to happen, and you could see it started to come down. Yep, because this was at 10 a.m. on Thursday. I think they mentioned this on Friday, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Friday is where news goes to die, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, look at that.
2% to 3 or 4% in a couple of days is like. I mean, unless you have a whack ton of shares, you're not necessarily hurting. But I hope people who have been smart enough by now have got their shares out of entertainment companies because they're so.
Yeah, but they promised $31 a share in cash, and that was approved by the boards. It was approved by the courts. It was approved by everything.
Right on.
So. I mean, that is a win-win. So if you haven't gotten in yet, you might want to get in now because
that's a limited time frame.
Yeah, that's a limited time offer.
I mean, or you can sit on it and buy the dip. I mean, if people are long WB in Paramount right now, I don't know. It's one of those.
This is not financial advice, by the way.
No, it's not. Like I'm just saying, those are the options. Those are the options you have. Don't take our advice. We hate it all anyway.
Yeah.
So we're not buying into it. This is just one of those things where now there's corporate overlords over corporate overlords and controlling media, and vote with your dollars.
Exactly. All right, so this video, I believe, is about it's 6 minutes long. So I'm gonna run straight through it. I'm also going to run it at 1.5, so we're not sitting here forever. But this is going to explain a lot more about what's happening. So let's take a look.
Between shareholders, executives, and FCC regulations, it's just a whole cluster. You may have heard about the recent controversy around the Paramount-Skydance merger and how that might affect the news media industry and journalism as a whole. It just feels like companies get bigger and bigger, corporations make more and more money, and then we end up with less and less, and we end up paying more and more. So let's talk about how much control these companies really have and why that might concern you. And also, we'll tie it back to physical media at the end, so definitely stick around. Here's a quick overview of the Paramount-Skydance cluster. In 2024, Paramount Global announced that they were working on an $8 billion merger with Skydance. And this is because Paramount was losing competitiveness in the entertainment industry, and it's kind of like adapt or die. They had a loss in streaming services, and they had declining viewership across cable networks, and then kind of debt management issues. The Drum called it a new lease on life, and kind of.
Real quick, if you guys don't know what Skydance is, I think, an independent film festival that a lot of independent people that don't have a lot of money, but they come up with some really great material, show off their skills there. A lot of producers get picked up there. A lot of different talent and actors get picked up there. And if you're wondering how 50 years ago, they had to go all the way out into like the middle of nowhere to find that one person that's like, hey, we've heard about you in musicals and stuff you did in high school. Hey, why don't you come out to Hollywood and try out there? You know, but nowadays you don't have to do that because they have these they have different ways for you to get seen now. And then of course with the internet and the rise of the internet, it's made it that much easier. But Skydance is sort of like the pinnacle of that. So let's continue.
Adapting to the streaming wars, coming to terms with the fact that legacy media has been waning in influence and in profits for a long time now, and it's really kind of getting worse and worse as time goes on. Some of Paramount's legacy franchises include The Godfather.
That's their own fault.
Breakfast at Tiffany's, Mission Impossible, Top Gun. Whether you realize it or not, you have definitely watched something produced by one of these media giants, subscribed to a service they own, or binged a show that they ended up licensing and could pull at any time. So many of these you've seen me talk about in previous Blu-ray videos. Recently did my top 5 Blu-ray picks for anyone starting their collection, and a few of these movies were in there. Part of why this merger is such a shit show is because they're waiting for FCC approval. But there's a problem with the FCC approval. Long story short, the federal government didn't like the way a CBS interview was edited, so now they're in a lawsuit. This lawsuit and its settlement are kind of intertwined with the merger and its process. The FCC chief noted that the lawsuit that is going on with CBS is separate from the Paramount Skydance merger review in their eyes, but there are a lot of differing perspectives on that. What we do know is all of these media assets being owned by one gigantic corporation and being bought, sold, and merged as needed in terms of what profits they'll be able to make, that creates many conflicts of interest. So
yeah, it does. And a lot of people, I mean, what exactly are the normal people like us supposed to do about that? Right? Because they know that
this is literally it. Just it's gonna happen. I mean, what are you gonna do? Smile and wave.
Smile and wave. That's it. You know, because what ends up happening is when they realize that the industry is starting to fail, they build up. They build up as much as they can. I remember that. Who's the guy that does all the stock stuff on the bald guy? Geez, I can't remember his name. But anyways, real famous guy on TV has a show in midday, and he talks just nothing about. But
oh, you're talking about the guy that does. He's on MSNBC or CNBC or like
CNBC.
What Is the Business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that guy. I remember when they were talking about aluminum and how way back when there used to be, you know, like 15 different aluminum companies, but he was talking about aluminum companies that 3 aluminum companies that were here in America were merging, or one was merging with another, and they were going to merge from 3 to 2. And did anybody say anything during that time period? No. There was no lawsuits. There was no outrage on it. But it's because people don't really care about that stuff, you know, so it goes under the rug, so to speak. You know, so when you see something like this, and you've got, because HBO used to be its own, CNN used to be its own, all these different companies used to be its own. And then, of course, back in 2009 or 2010, when Comcast merged with Universal, that was absolutely massive. But
Disney bought Fox.
Yep, Disney bought Fox.
20th Century Fox.
Yep.
Like all of the movies and entertainment stuff.
They did. But where was the outrage, right? But we didn't have Twitter back then either. So who knows? But anyways, like I said, this is either going to go really, really good or really, really bad. But either way, I think this is the beginning of the end. So they have no other choice but to merge with each other to compete with everybody else, because there's a new free market online, like YouTube, Rumble, things like that, where people are creating their own stuff there. You know, and they don't, and the thing is, they don't need as many resources, and it's not like they're charging people that much to see all of their content either.
Yeah.
You don't need that much. You really don't. If you have 2,000 to 3,000 dedicated people to follow you, you can make a living.
Yeah. And I don't think I think our generation is burnt. We're burnt out. We're burnt out on media. We've consumed so much in such a short period of time. We've gone from no phones to supercomputers and AI in our pockets in a lifetime, in half of a lifetime.
Not even. Just
not even half, a third of a lifetime. We
from
have,
high school to middle age.
From high school to middle age, we have gone from wondering where our buddies are hanging out and having to go find the spot because we missed them after school, to now you basically can just GPS your dudes. You can know where they're at without even asking them. Like you know, and the AI can even, if you have the right server set up, you get it set up. You can just, like, technology is to the point where we surveil ourselves willingly, and we have all of the media at our fingertips, whether you pay for it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is so ridiculous that when we've consumed so much in our life that it's hard for us getting to the old farts. We're middle. I'm not super old, but like, we've seen enough to now go, I've seen this before. We've watched a media industry between gaming and movies and television get completely ransacked by stupidity, by radical leftists, and brain rot, that it's going to take the next generation coming up to see this middle ground of garbage that it's become and go, yeah, we're done with all of that. It's going to take a new generation to come up. Like, I don't even consume media. Like, I drive in my car with the radio off, and I am a guitar player. I'm a bass player. Okay. I drive in the car with my radio off to the sound of the road. That's how little I consume anymore, because I've heard it all and seen it all.
Exactly.
In a hyperbolic kind of sense. So, like, this stuff, bring it. You guys buy all of each other up. You're just going to somebody's going to come along and figure out some kind of disruptive media way, or technology, or way of producing things, or you'll have somebody break off from the big boys, and there will be a mass exodus of people when those guys produce the next thing.
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen. It always happens. Things get bloated and stagnated and fall apart, and something rises from the ashes.
And now we live a sad life talking about it on the internet, on Discord. Ladies and gentlemen,
all three people, thank you for listening to our rants this evening.
Thank you. What's going on, folks? AK with Roma Nation here. This week is powered by Salty Roots Tallow, a brand that brings skincare back to the basics of nature and nourishment. At Salty Roots, their mission is to craft a premium American-made skincare products harnessing the nourishing power of grass-fed tallow and natural minerals for clean, holistic health. Now, they are committed to sourcing the finest, sustainably produced ingredients from U.S. farms and blending them with nature's mineral-rich treasures to create pure, effective skincare that promotes radiant skin and overall well-being. And trust me, you can feel that mission with every product. Their Dead Sea bath salts combine pure Dead Sea and Sierra sea salts with essential oils and herbs for a spa-grade mineral soak that melts away stress. They also have an activated charcoal bath soak that purifies, recharges, and cleans out impurities and leaves your skin silky smooth. In fact, I even have a mustache and beard oil made with eucalyptus mint to moisturize even my horrible dry skin to the point where I don't feel any urge to scratch and irritate myself more than I need to. So if you're ready to treat your skin the way that nature intended, visit saltyrootstallow.com and use the promo code ROMA to get 10% off individual items to help the small businesses of Middle America thrive in this crazy economy. That's saltyrootstallow.com. Get back to your roots naturally.
America is opening up relations with Cuba, and it's a big deal, ending decades of hostility and beginning a new era between the two countries. But to understand just how big of a deal, where that hostility really came from, why it took so long to end, you've got to go back, way back. Not to the 1950s, as many Americans might think, but to the 1850s. But the story starts with America divided between pro-slavery and anti-slavery politics, and one of their many fights is over the Spanish colony of Cuba. Pro-slavery lawmakers want to buy Cuba from Spain, or take it by force to turn it into a new slave state. Anti-slavery politicians oppose this, calling it imperialism. But fast forward to 1898, after slavery's over. Americans have a different version of this same argument when Cubans rise up against Spain. The U.S. joins them, starting the Spanish-American War. But Americans divide. Should the U.S. seize Cuba from Spain for itself, or liberate the island? This is part of a much bigger debate at the time over whether the U.S. should explicitly become a European-style imperial power. So this is an argument about Cuba, but it's also an argument about America, what kind of country it should be. Should America be the kind of country that controls Cuba, or that respects it as a fellow sovereign nation? And that argument has continued in different forms ever since. At this point, in 1898, the fight happens in Congress. Each side passes laws trying to force their way. And it ends up with a weird split baby policy, with Cuba winning independence, but other quasi-imperial American rule. The U.S. would take over Guantanamo Bay, dictate Cuba's foreign policy, and give itself the right to intervene in Cuban affairs. Then came the American interventions in Cuba in 1906, 1917. Each time, the U.S. military takes over for a few years.
All right, so let's talk about that first part. So, I think, didn't they also own Florida for the time being? Not own, but like
we did
kinda,
buy this. We did buy Florida from the Spanish at one point. We did purchase that, I believe.
I think so too, because I thought that they were supposed to be. Florida would have been a state much earlier. It probably would have been a colony if it wasn't for the Spanish.
It's the Adams-Onis Treaty. Oh, we did not purchase Florida in a traditional sense. We acquired it through the Adams-Onis Treaty in 1819. Spain ceded both the East and West Florida to the United States. The treaty was ratified by both nations and officially proclaimed on February 22nd of 1821, when U.S. forces took formal possession of the territory. Often referred to as Florida Purchase, but it involved more than just land. Yeah, we had $5 million in claims against Spain by American citizens establishing clear western boundary for Louisiana Purchase. So there was it was just one of those things where like, yeah, we're not going to fight with them over it. You can just have it. It's fine.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's basically what it turned into. So, all right, there we go. Fact check ready. All good.
Ostensibly to resolve some political crisis, but that usually means protecting American interests, such as sugar imports. Today, when Americans think about the US and Cuba, we think of the Cold War, but Cubans often think back to this imperial era. And that era technically ends in 1933 with an uprising against Cuba's government. Under US law, America is supposed to intervene again, but President Franklin Roosevelt wants to end the imperial era, so he declares neutrality. And over the next 20 years, Cuba becomes a democracy, and one that's generally friendly with the US. That changes in 1952, when a former president and military leader named Fulgencio Batista seizes power in a coup, suspends the Constitution, and imposes an increasingly oppressive rule.
Now, where have we heard that before?
Yeah, we went over some of this during when we talked about Kennedy, just a little bit when we were talking about, and also about some of the regime change stuff.
Exactly.
We've touched on this a couple times, I think, but I don't think we ever went deep.
Right. And I think that like this probably should have been a part of that episode, but I'm kind of glad that we didn't, because this is a little bit this hits a little bit more at home than say Venezuela or the Middle East. But first things first, let's say 1800 to like around this time where Batista kind of takes over, right? Geography set the terms, right? Because of Cuba's location, because of the Gulf of America, I just said. Yes.
Yeah. Gulf of Mexico at the time.
Exactly. Made it naturally tied to U.S. trade with investments and, tourism, proximity, things like that.
Thank you, Funk Master.
Oh, Funk Master General, how are you doing today? It's our number one fan. He is back. Yes, sir. Cuba still remained under Spanish colony through repeated rebellions and things like that. But commercially, it watched Cuba prevent rival European influence, right? So though the United States had a lot of European influence at that time, Cuba didn't, right? So when you also look at some of their exports, like flour, the politics and tariffs, disrupted a lot of those flows. So, but they were able to get that fixed up until, of course, they had a hurricane that came through and basically destroyed the island back in, I think, 1835. So they cut the imports by 30%. And then, of course, by the 1840s, the rise of Spanish tariffs and the Panic of 1857 and the U.S. Civil War all kind of suppressed that trade and investment, because we didn't have money to spend on that. They were spending it on weapons or spending it on things that we needed here to kind of fight the war that was going on over here, right? But in the late 1800s, what was the biggest import at that time?
Sugar, and not the Colombian kind.
Not the booger sugar.
Not the booger sugar.
Yeah, so it became very popular along with cocoa plants, tobacco, coffee, fruits, nuts, but most importantly, iron ore. We can't forget about that, because we as the U.S. imported to them things like cereal, things like meats, manufactured goods, oils, milk, fuel, and when we talk about fuel and the things that are happening now today, I mean, we could probably make that connection. But
at the time that was coal. We were a massive coal exporter.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not talking oil, like drilling for oil and powering vehicles until the 1900s. And this is still the late 1800s. This is the Wild West era. This is Civil War era. We're talking slavery is still a thing. Cuba's neighbor Haiti is owned by the French, which is still enslaved, an entire slave island, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but Cuba's over there, Spaniards just doing their thing.
Exactly. And then, of course, at the turn of the century, the U.S., I guess, technically wins Cuba, but like you said before, it was more that that the Spaniards just did not want to. They didn't want the smoke. We were just fresh off of a civil war. It was like the people were still on edge. We had a lot of problems going on in our country. We didn't need any more, you know. So of course, U.S. occupied Cuba. They cut the tariffs and taxes. They liberalized a lot of the markets that they had over there. They had the communications went up. They modernized the sugar, and then deep independency. Uh, they basically blocked the annexation, but the Platt Amendment enabled intervention in Cuba's independence framework was finalized in 1903. You know, now at this point in time, I think things were okay between the U.S. and Cuba, right? And it made a lot of sense because they should have been a state. I mean, especially when we had that much control over a country, and seeing to it that they're having the same type of growth that the United States is having at the time, um, that would have made the most sense then. But of course, World War One comes in the 1920s. Then they had whiplash with sugar, and then U.S. ownership grows because World War One boosted Cuban sugar, especially over like in a global sense, right? Because this must have been like the sugar capital of the world. I don't know. I didn't go that deep into it, but sugar seems to be the one thing that ties a lot of this together. Trying to think here. Let's see. This is a 1920 and 21. The U.S. refines produce over half the output. Most shipments that went to the U.S. They quarantine rules and overproduction laws had followed after that. But let's think about this.
We're
right?
missing a huge part of this. I just realized is the Spanish-American War in 1898, where we marched all the way to Mexico. And participated in the Mexican Revolution. We ended Spanish colonialism by marching all the way to Mexico City, basically, to the heart of and just was it Mexico? Is that what it is? What's the name? I don't know. Might be.
Wasn't the Alamo in there somewhere?
Somewhere there was a fight at the Alamo. Like we joined up with the basic by modern standards, the leftist revolutionaries in the late 1800s we fought two civil wars in the late 1800s, and we ended Spanish colonialism in the West. That's why they walked away. They were like, fine, you win. We'll just continue. We'll take our boats and go because we have a feeling that you have a thing about boats. We can't prove it yet, but we're like now we know. Now we know about boats in the United States. We completely wiped Spain off of this part of the continent, as far as like northern west, and they retained something in the south, but weren't really able to. Like, so yeah, the Spaniards kind of got their butts kicked in the and I don't know why I didn't think of that. I'm like, what is it going on there? And I had to think of like I used to watch westerns, and I just watched one not that long ago that was about that. It was about like post Mexican Civil War, Spanish American War, and yeah, like this is the whole scenario of what's going on with Cuba right now. Like, so there it is, and then the trade and all of that, and sorry, I had to kind of hijack and take it back. Be like, there's a bigger picture here. There's a way bigger picture going on here, and the Spanish have their revolution, and there's the rise of like socialism is happening overseas, and also in the South. FDR is a progressive. By the time FDR gets there, like this whole thing makes sense when you start to realize what is brewing underneath of, because we're talking about Cuba and communism. You know, there's something brewing here. This is the proto stage of all of that.
So basically, the Spaniards came in on the Santa Maria and went out on the Amistad. All right, so
Don't let the wave hit you on the way across the Prime Meridian.
Exactly.
I think that's actually the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. So we're going from protectionism to politics to revolution to rapture, right? And U.S. tariffs were hammered down on sugar and agriculture, and in 1934, reciprocity partially restored the trade. But by the 1950s, Batista, when he came in, fueled backlash. So after 1959, Castro's reform and his nationalizations collided with U.S. sugar subsidies, and then promoted Soviet China trade swaps. Sound familiar? And a break in diplomatic ties in the early 1960s led to the embargo, which also led to what? Missile crisis.
Oh, Bay of Pigs stuff? Are we talking about? Yeah. All right.
No,
Okay.
no, hold on. No, Bay of Pigs, we're talking on the next episode.
Oh, okay.
Yes. This is all the way up to the 1959 point, but this is sort of like a lead in into that. So, in come the embargoes. Let's take a listen.
The US embargo on Cuba is much worse than what it may seem like at first glance. And I'm going to tell you why. A lot of people tend to reply to talk of the embargo with stuff like, well, okay, but the embargo only impedes trade with the US, and there's also exemptions for medicine and for food, so it's not that bad, but it's actually not nearly that simple. First, the US is Cuba's natural geographical trading partner. It's a massive economy that's right next to Cuba's tiny little island. So Cuba is by default put at a massive disadvantage compared to its neighbors. But that's not why I'm making this video. Don't worry, there's much more to this. The US enforces its embargo extraterritorially, meaning outside of its own territory, much more than you might think. How? Well, first, the US is the world's financial center. In order to safely trade with Cuba, a company needs to have literally no assets whatsoever in the USA itself, because otherwise they would be at risk of freezing or seizure for breaking the embargo. Now, let's say that you're a big company and you've got to choose between access to the US or to Cuba. Would you choose the USA, the world's biggest economy and its financial hub, or would you choose Cuba, a tiny little island nation of 11 million people? Obviously, you're going to choose the USA, and that's part of the embargo's design. It's crafted and maintained with this in mind. But wait, there's more. Any cargo ship or plane that stops in Cuba cannot go to the USA for 6 months. Since both countries are right next to each other with only 90 miles separating them, most shipping companies obviously choose the US over Cuba. So it's much harder for Cuba to even secure transport for its trade. But hey,
well, you can kind of say that for anybody in the Gulf at that point, right? You know, and it's part of the reason why I believe Trump changed the name from Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, because who's protecting the Gulf? Who's protecting all of those borders?
You mean all of those oil rigs?
Yeah, all those oil rigs, all the oil that's even in South America. Like, who's protecting all
The
of
shipping lanes?
Yep. It's not Mexico.
No.
At least not that I know of. But anyways.
Hey, let's say that there's companies who do literally no business with the US at all. Literally none. They have no operations there, no assets there whatsoever. None at all. Well, the US still targets them. To try and disincentivize trade with Cuba as much as possible, their executives are banned from entering the USA, and any assets that they have there are seized.
Right. Because what ends up happening is Castro comes in and he nationalizes all the U.S. assets as sort of like Cuba's final independence, so to speak. So
Right.
it acquired $4 billion in assets while eliminating it's basically any other investments that's going to have. So basically, that's what they're stuck with. So it's like, hey, we've got all this money, but we can't do anything with it.
It's the same reason why they're still running around in old like Fords and Dodges and stuff, like the old gangster looking cars. It looks like something out of The Godfather when you go to Cuba. There's no modern vehicles there. Now there might be some Chinese Chang-Lis running around these days, but for the longest time they had to like repurpose. They had car manufacturing down there, and it was the one place where you could get brand new vintage cars. They may have not had the same engines in them, but they were literally building 30s, 40s, and 50s style cars for decades afterward.
I forgot. I watched a thing on YouTube. They were suffering for like car parts for a long time. So there were people that were taking like old tires and old things, and they were recreating them into parts.
Yeah,
for
they were
different
recycling.
cars.
They were heavily recycling the best they could for a long time, and having to fabricate new stuff and just scrape by.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Isaac says here. They have the best mechanics for those by necessity, right?
Why do you think those Latin guys are so into old cars?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see the Cuban car culture out of Florida. It's so cool.
I was gonna make a Fast and Furious spoon reference, but I'll leave I'll leave that to those guys. Yeah. So of course, when that happens, there's a mass exodus of Cubans, right? And where do they go? Where's one of the largest populations of Cubans in America?
Florida.
Which city?
Miami.
That's why there's a huge population of Cubans there, right? Because with the revolutionary campaign, they had political repression and fears pushed by a large number of Cubans to flee, especially to South Florida, hardening the diaspora's role in the U.S. politics. But then you move forward with the embargo logistics. Cuba faced higher transport costs, fleet limitations, open sea routing, empty backhauls, and also in vehicles, right? And driving up freight charges and compounding shortages. But you have to remember, they got help from somewhere, right? They had Soviet support by the offset of the embargo, and at times reached up to 25% of the Cuban income, reshaping the economy around Soviet trade versus the United States trade, which falls into, like the Cuban Missile Crisis, all that other stuff, right?
It seems so counterintuitive. I mean, when it comes to doing trade with a country that's on the other side of the world and is not easy to get to from Russia, there must have been some massive incentives for the Russians.
Yeah, massive incentives. And on top of that,
strategic incentives specifically.
Right. So it was almost I wouldn't say a game of cat and mouse, but it was a game of like, I'm not touching you. But of course, back then we didn't have the technology to know if it was a threat or not, right? But it almost caused a massive war that we probably would have lost at that time. Let's see what Isaac says. 90 miles from Key West is incentive. It's still an incentive now. Are you kidding me? Ileon Gonzalez. Everybody remember that story? Mm-hmm. I lived in Florida at that time, so I definitely remember that story. And of course, the media portrayed it all crazy. Remember the one guy that looked like Maximus?
Oh yeah,
that was holding the machine gun and was trying to grab him in the house, and the kid's like, ah! And that was the one photo that they got and made it seem like it was really bad. Real danger of
Yeah,
close
they have
launch
been doing
missiles, the
that.
lack of warning and reaction time. Well, yeah, and they didn't even have supersonic missiles back then.
Mm-mm. But at the same time, we were like, yeah, no. No.
Mm.
No, you can't be doing this. You can't have, no. We don't care if you're buddies, but you got to take your fireworks back on that side of town. Like,
That's funny.
Like every 4th of July, we're good with them, right? Just remember, our fireworks represent actually doing something with them. And if you're going to bring fireworks to the party, we expect you to set them off.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, it's the same argument that happened with Ukraine and NATO and Russia. And that's what Russia was saying is like, look, you guys threw a fit when we threw our boats down there at Cuba.
Right?
I'm just saying.
Just saying. All right. So, and then we've got setbacks, right? Back in the 70s, because, U.S. policy was relaxed somewhat around that time. And then the U.S. pursued steps towards normalization, but foreign interventions derailed all of those talks. You can only imagine who was president at that time during all of those talks. A specific somebody that kind of screwed the U.S. for the next 20 years, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep. But I don't want to get too far into this because we're going to get more in depth next week. But then you've got the retightening with Reagan, and then of course the stagnation cliff, where the per capita income largely stagnated in the 50s, and then much into the Cold War, followed by a sharp early 1990s collapse, where the Soviet subsidies disappeared, leaving Cuba far behind everywhere else. So basically they were on their own. So there was a lot of starvation, there was a lot of crime, there was, everything, because they couldn't do anything on that island. They were basically on an island alone. So to speak.
But isolated them.
Mm-hmm. Who can forget Ilion? Oh man. But definitely next week we will get more into the embargoes and the Cuban Missile Crisis and Carter. Yes, that's who I was talking about, President Carter. Where a lot of there's still people now to this day that are like, "Oh man, he was such a great president," and it was like, no, he was literally voted the worst by his peers.
Sorry, he had the big lips, like just.
Oh my God, get that off the screen. All right. Let's go. All right, so that was part 1 of the Cuban crisis. So we're definitely going to get back to you guys next week on part 2. It's going to be a recorded episode because I'm going to be down in Austin, Texas, doing a special assignment next weekend. And once that's all said and done and we get everything situated, we got some special stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks. So make sure you stay tuned. Oh, yes.
It's going to be far.
It's going to be very far. So don't forget to go to riseofmiddleamerica.com, see our shows. Upper right-hand corner, that is our socials. Or you can see in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you can place your phone up there. It takes you straight to the site. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please make sure you share the show with your friends and hit that notification button so you don't miss a moment of the action. So thank you guys so much for seeing us today. And we will come back next week with part 2. And that's if we're still here, if Iran doesn't come and take over us. But That's a completely different story.
And I ran so far away.
Is that?
I ran.
Hold on.
I'm them night and day.
Let me see if I can find that. I ran so
USA.
away.
Dude, that parody of Flock of Seagulls, the AI parody, Flock of Seagulls, just like a clip of it. Just find a clip of it. We don't want to get the whole DMCA, but like maybe we can show something. This thing is so funny.
Hold on. I'm gonna put the volume as far down as possible. There we go.
Show it. Just show it. You don't have to hear it. You can hear it's not hard to imagine what it sounds like.
Oh my goodness. You can only imagine.
Gotta turn the volume up a little bit.
I like to look at those oil supplies. I'd be ashamed if someone invaded you. If someone invaded you. And I ran so far away. I bomb them night and day. But this for USA. Hustle in my veins, no rest, no dream, trying to make a way. Whole team gotta eat. No sleep, gotta keep going. No sleep, till the world know it. No sleep, till the world know it. No sleep, till the world know it. I've been moving like a clock, don't stop, no breaks, no rest, no time to flop. Gotta get it while I'm breathing, never taking a loss. See the pain in my eyes, but the vision stay locked. Ain't nobody finna hand me a thing. Came from the bottom, I rose through the rain. Hustle like I never had a meal on my plate. Now we eating so good that the hunger remains. Fast lane, never slowing my pace. Tell them I was built for the chase. Every night trying to double my worth. Put my name in the sky, make it shake up the earth. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep till I touch that